Good evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual we are here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line. Address it to a Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis, or you can give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Also, you can view this program, our video stream of this program, on our YouTube channel. You can click subscribe, Vaughan Radio YouTube channel, click subscribe, or you can follow us on our video stream on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. Tonight we have two segments to the show. If you think friend or family member, somebody might, for whatever reason, might not be tuned in, please give them a nudge or something. Let them know we got some health matters, simple but powerful health matters we're going to be talking about tonight in the first segment. And we've had this discussion before this topic, and it was immensely useful to a lot of folks, including myself. So please get somebody on, let them know that we'll be talking about this in the first segment, and the second segment will be interesting as well. So our first segment this evening, we'll be speaking about effective weight loss and metabolism. We'll be speaking with Dr. Charles McWilliams of Jade. In the last couple of months or so, if you're a regular listener to this show, you remember that we talked with Dr. Williams and gave us some interesting information. Tonight on this topic, we've added David Walwyn, and everybody knows the Fit Center right here in Nevis. He's been doing this stuff over 20-something years. They're having an anniversary. He'll probably tell us a little bit about that as well. And fitness, everybody's involved in it, and he can give us some simple directions how we can get that weight off, keep it off, etc. So I've just let you know who we're talking with, these two gentlemen. First of all, Dr. McWilliams, good evening. It's good to have you back.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for having me back to your wonderful program.
And David Walwyn of the Fit Center here in Nevis. It is good to have you. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Webbo, and good evening to all your listeners as well.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We've got this topic, and it is wide-ranging. The both of you, that's your field, right? So why don't you start off, any one of you, with your opening comment and stuff like that. As the discussion goes on and I see a need to ask a question or two, and the callers, please, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, you can join in at any time. So who's going to be first?
I'll be happy to be first.
Okay, Dr. Williams, go ahead.
Tonight we're going to be talking about the combination of exercise and cellular health. You know, there's a lot of talk about weight loss and diets and the need for exercise, and all of that is true, but there is one central feature of all of animal metabolism, basically, but specifically for humans. And that topic that's running very strong in the, we call it alternative health community of the United States, is mitochondrial health. And let me just explain shortly what a mitochondrium is. It's a minute powerhouse within the cell. It's about the size of a bacterium. It's quite small. In fact, the research today shows that it is in fact an adopted inclusion in the evolution of the animal species of a bacterium, a rickettsial species actually. And it has a different DNA than human DNA. This is the startling discovery that has come to the foreground. I was just talking with a very famous medical doctor a few days ago, and he's telling me the topics going in the seminar circles now is that we as doctors have to start talking a different kind of medicine, because what we have been doing is not working. It's not helping people lose weight. It's not helping getting blood sugars down by giving medications. We have to talk a whole new system of medicine, and that system rotates around mitochondria, which is very, very important. So we are now learning these new ways of looking at human cell to burn sugar, which is a central feature around, of course, diabetes, being that when the cell loses its efficiency, the blood sugar goes up, and when it becomes chronic and static, as the sugar starts to infiltrate the cell, it now has become what is well known to be a tumor marker, and that also means that it will, instead of being burned by mitochondria, it actually ferments, and that fermentation process is the hallmark of cancer. So it's a very, very important concept to understand that some 80% of the food that we eat is not feeding us, it's feeding this mitochondria, and these mitochondria, as I like to say, it ain't human. it's an adopted species within ourselves. We get most of it from our mother, and it's passed on from generation to generation. So when it comes to exercise and the diet and the health of the gut microbiome, as we call it, it all rotates around the what we can do to get this mitochondria more efficient, because it gets slowed down by a lack of vitamins, a lack of minerals, and a lack of exercise, which is why I'm going to pass on the microphone now to my very dear friend and colleague, David Warren at the Fit Center.
Yeah, and good evening to everyone. If I may, I'd like to start first by, as Webbo mentioned, that we will be celebrating our 21st anniversary, June 9th, which also is a celebration of our first year at the new location. And so we like to invite the general public. We're having an open house, and so on June 9th, we're having a free day for all who wants to come and check out the facility. You can feel free to do that on June 9th. Everyone is welcome to come, and it's absolutely free, no charge. Webbo, as you mentioned, you invited your listeners to go get someone, and I like to support that comment, because I think what we're going to be talking tonight is a very important conversation, is one that I've been pushing for a very long time, and so it's I'm happy to see my good friend here reach this conversation, and Dr. Charles, thank you so much for making me a part of it. This is going to be a very, very, very important conversation. Our topic is about effective weight loss and metabolism. But the topic that we're going to have, particularly when it relates to mitochondria, it really relates to longevity and overall health. And
yes.
As we get into the conversation, you can understand how these mitochondria relates to not just longevity and proper weight loss, but how it affects overall health.
Yes.
All right. So, Dr. Charles, should we start with first? I think it's important for our listeners to understand. I think you touched on it very briefly, but what is a mitochondria? I like to explain it in a way that I think simplifies things. So these mitochondria is like the powerhouse.
Yes.
And then I guess we can relate to them as a universal battery. So imagine that everything has to be regulated by energy, And so these energy, mitochondria is generally formed in various cells. And they create what they call a powerhouse, ATP, which is, is a long word, but we won't get into that. But they create powerhouse, and they essentially drive all metabolic function activity. So, for example, it's what causes your muscles to contract. It's what causes the heart to beat. And so these mitochondria site is in every active cells. And
Yes.
so the more active we are, and this is a very critical point that I think is important to mention. The more active you are, the more those mitochondria sites are. And
Yes.
so typically that's why you will find them more in muscle cells, heart cells, and liver cells.
Correct.
And then we're going to get into how that now affects weight loss and longevity.
Be glad to. Maybe I should sit back the forest for the trees to give you a big perspective.
Yes.
There is a plant kingdom and there is an animal kingdom. And the unique separation between the two is based on this mitochondria. The plant kingdom was able to evolve because it developed what's called a chloroplast. And the chloroplast can actually receive photons from the sun directly. It can assemble those photons and actually constructs what's called the sugar molecule from carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And the plant only needs really just a few things to grow and evolve. It needs sunlight, it needs water, it needs minerals. And the bacteria in the soil do the rest for the plant. The evolution of the animal kingdom, the animal kingdom by and large did not evolve with this chloroplast. So it had to have a secondary means of attracting energy because we can't live and breathe on sun. Obviously, we have to eat food.
Yeah.
And the food we eat comes from plants, which is the sugar that the plant had made, with combining carbon dioxide molecules into linear chains called sugars, which to us is a sweet food that we eat. That our cells then in turn take this sugar, this glucose, into the cell and successively break it down. And as the cell breaks it down, electrons are released. And the powerhouse within the cell that does most of that breakdown is the mitochondria. And then the mitochondria donate these electrons to, basically, we could almost say it's a bacterial excrement. It's called ATP,
Yeah.
which are the chemical batteries.
Yeah.
And we thrive and survive off these ATP molecules.
Mm-hmm.
Universally, across all of the animal kingdom, we all survive on ATP. And you can think of them like a little tiny storage battery that grabs on the adenosine diphosphate, ADP, goes to the mitochondrial membrane. It is loaded or supercharged with electron force through a phosphorus molecule, and then goes back into the cell and donates electrons where the cell needs it to drive all of its metabolic machinery.
Yeah.
So it could be said that almost every single disease, bar trauma or basically blunt force trauma, every single disease development has some relation to the efficiency of this metabolism of making ATP.
Yeah.
Because when your ATP supplies go down, things start to break down.
Right. I think this is a great segue to correlate it to how that affects weight gain, how that affects brain function like dementia, Alzheimer's, and all those things. So if we have established that mitochondria is formed in the most active cells. And so muscle has to be very active because it stimulates movement. Liver, the heart has to keep pumping. So any active cells, you'll have more chondrocytes in those cells. I would say that the muscle probably have more mitochondrocytes than any other cell because it's the most active.
Yes.
Is that a fair assessment? All right. So if it begs the reason that the more muscles we have, the more mitochondrocytes we have,
Yes.
the more we're able to regulate sugar glucose,
Yes.
the more we're able to regulate blood sugar.
Yes.
And if we are active, then the brain is also more active.
Yes. Because it also uses a lot of ATP.
Right.
Up to 50%, some say.
Right. And if we are active, then the heart is more active.
Yes.
All right? And so it all really all stems back to movement. Whether, I'm an exercise person, I run a gym, so I'll push exercise. But I think activity, any form. Just before we started the program, Dr. Charles, and I think this is an important point, we talked about that our physiology is still primitive, even though we're living in a very modern world. This is a very important point that I think that is important to drive home. That our physiology is still primitive. In other words, we are, when we were living in the primitive world, we were hunter and gatherers. We would walk for days to find food. We had to go out and hunt. And so we were very active people. The body still functions on that physiology.
Yes.
And so we haven't evolved much. And so much of that physiology still remains with us. And so if you've heard the saying, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Bottom line.
So the opposite, so the reason why we'll tend to put weight on, we'll tend later in years, we tend to have issues like dementia and Alzheimer's. It really all stems back from lack of activity.
Yes.
It's a fair assessment.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
Even with the brain, they say people that know 2 languages rarely develop Alzheimer's, or because they're able to think in 2 different languages simultaneously. They have very higher brain activity than people that only speak 1, and the outcome of that is they really get Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rarely get senile. So same issue with muscles. It's just is the motion of the body, and the brain is the neural energy that's driving it, the whole dynamic.
Yeah, so I'd like to encourage the listeners, who may be hearing this, and we're talking you're throwing a lot of medical words around, and you hear these terms, microecology. We just like to give you the background about what happens in the body physiologically, but what we really want to drive home why it's critically important to be active, because the body is designed to be active.
Yes.
Everything about the body is designed.
It's built in. It's hardwired from the moment of birth.
Yeah. So, can we just bring it home to terms of weight loss, because we did talk about how we can achieve effective weight loss. So
Yes.
I really want to touch on that, because I think there may be a lot of people that is probably very interested in that. So first of all, if you are sitting at home and listening to this and you have a little extra belly fat, that's a good sign that you are insulin resistant.
Yes. That's the beginning of it.
That's the beginning of it. And if you're insulin resistant, you're also in a pre-diabetic state.
Bottom line.
Bottom line. Okay, that's a fair assessment. So if you're carrying belly fat and you're insulin resistant, that is an indication that you're inactive and the body is not assimilating calories as efficiently as it should.
Yes.
Those are your telltale signs.
Yes.
Any other telltale signs that you may think of?
Yes, there is one. And I actually did AI a couple of days ago, anticipating this program,
Yeah.
just to clarify to my mind what I had come to a conclusion about 20-some years ago. The insulin resistance story has increased in society and civilization, not just locally but globally, because of seed oil, cooking oil. We didn't have this in the 1800s. Most of our fat consumption was animal-based, coming from eggs and meats and things of these natures. We didn't have seed oils. And the omega-6 oils has increased in the average diet of people because of culinary preferences, because of restaurants, and because of industry pushing this product 20 to 1. We're eating 20 times the amount of omega-6 oils than people did that I could call my grandparents, because seed oils and cooking oils was not introduced until massively until after the Second World War. Okay, so this has now incorporated into the cell membranes of our bodily cells, and it's causing and accelerating an insulin resistance. the insulin molecule isn't becoming as effective to stimulate internally the function of the mitochondria.
Right.
So that's the two fulcrums. It's exercise and seed oils. Bottom line, that's the whole thing.
That affects the function of the mitochondria.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to get rid of these seed oils, it's twofold. It's stop eating them, and secondarily is exercise to mobilize them out of your system and burn them off and get them replaced with omega-6 fatty acids and saturated fatty acids from fish and animal sources.
So we are working with you and I, a young lady right now who is, overweight.
Yes.
She started at 400 pounds, and she has now lost 25 pounds. Largely because, we're looking at all these things that happens behind the background. Many people have come to me and says, David, I'd like to lose weight. And the first thing I said to them, that you have to get healthy first before you can achieve effective weight loss.
Yes.
Often, many people don't know what that is. But hopefully after listening to this program, you get the insight background why that's important. So one of the things I like to discuss is what are some of the things that happens that breaks down as a result of poor lifestyle, poor eating habits, overweight. We talk about, the mitochondria sites, you're not going to have a lot of those develop because in a person who is carrying more body fat, they'll have less mitochondria sites. The person who is less active, they'll have less mitochondria sites.
Yes.
And so they're going to experience a lot of those issues that we're talking about, potentially dementia in future life, possibly Alzheimer's. The body's not going to regulate sugar as efficient as it should. The very thing that actually sends a signal to the body that you're full, leptin, the body doesn't produce that as efficiently either.
Yes, that's right.
When you have low mitochondria sites.
The leptin.
Yeah. This is why it's important to discuss what happens in the background of why people tend to struggle with weight loss, because often they think they go to the gym, they exercise, but really do they realize that a lot of those things has to be corrected, particularly one, which is insulin sensitivity. Because as we mentioned, if you're carrying belly fat, you're already insulin resistant. That has to be corrected before effective weight loss can occur. We have to increase those mitochondria sites.
Yes.
Other things that I think is affected is thyroid function.
Thyroid is massively important because thyroid is basically the hormone throttle of mitochondrial replication inside the cell. What keeps the mitochondria up? It's actually modulated and it's throttled by the thyroxine that's in the blood. So when someone becomes hyperthyroid, for example, they lose weight quickly, they don't sleep as well, they tremor, they have fast beating hearts, all their metabolism speeds up, their body feels hot. So this thyroid is like a major throttle, and there are endocrinologists that I have met down through the years where admittedly the biggest problem in humanity today, contributing to this whole what we call metabolic syndrome, which is insulin resistance, that then turns into hypertension, that then turns into hyperlipidemia, that also then turns into obesity, that is very much throttled by the health of the thyroid. And people are generally thyroid, in addition to being insulin resistant, they're also thyroxine resistant. Their cell membranes don't recognize thyroid as well either, even if their blood panels look normal.
Now, how's the leptin tied into thyroid gland? Leptin.
It's a downstream effect. When I like to explain people the situation is how did you get there first? Because look at cause rather than looking at all the downstream factors. And one of the things I see with medical doctors is they get into the minutiae of things. They like to think this whole downstream effects of gaining weight, of getting disease, becoming diabetic, has all these extremely enormously complicated cycles. Well, they do, but if we get back to the basics and understand why does a mitochondria start to wane, and believe it or not, micro electrodes have been stuck in cells to look at what is the actual precipitating factor that starts to drag down this mitochondrial function. And it's not just function in the mitochondria, it's actually replication. Because the mitochondria inside of our cells, they multiply like bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And they web and wane, you know. And as cells divide, they either stay in optimum numbers or they start to dwindle. They multiply less. Turns out that the bottom line of it is the acidification of the internal cell environment. They become more acid. Simple as that. And what drives acid is a diet that doesn't get enough mineralization. They don't get enough potassium, they don't get enough magnesium, they don't get enough calcium. That is a embedded continuity cause. And the other aspect of that acidification of the cell is they just don't drink enough water.
Yeah. So this is also a good segue to just highlight those points, because those folks who are listening, they may be tuning in because they feel that they may be able to get some helpful information about their challenge with weight loss. There is a few factors that you have to consider. We talked about insulin sensitivity.
Yes.
So if you're carrying excess belly fat, you're already insulin resistant.
Yes.
We talk about what are the other ones? I don't think we covered bad gut bacteria. So as a result of poor eating habits over time, you develop overabundance of
dysbiosis, we call it.
Yeah, of bad gut bacteria.
Bad gut bacteria.
Yeah. So I'd like you to expand on how does that affect weight loss and how does it all tie into what we're talking about with mitochondria.
Recently discovered, which is kind of like, it's been like a little bombshell in the community of alternative health right now, is they have discovered that there's minute peptides that are secreted by bacteria in the gut that crosstalk with the mitochondria, which from a biological standpoint, that makes perfect sense, because if the mitochondria is in fact a ancient relative of an ancient bacteria, it would only make sense that it would crosstalk with the bacteria that's in the gut. So we're learning that there's these intercommunication peptides that are going back and forth between the gut, the blood, the brain, the endocrine glands, and the mitochondria. And they've already discovered implicating bacteria in obesity that seems to always be there when you're obese. In fact, they've done experiments with mice when they remove those bacteria from mice and they feed it to different bacteria. The mice lose weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So we know there's this going on.
Well, fetal implants as well.
Yes, everybody's doing fecal implants.
Yeah.
Now. That's a big thing right now. So we know all of this is important, and I like to always get back to the real simplicity of this whole thing. Generally, how does constipation develop, even if it's from childhood or from adolescence or even into adulthood? What is the central core cause of it? Generally is a person that has developed a bad habit of not drinking enough water. It's just really that simple. And that not drinking enough water does two things. It sets off a bad cascade of biological regulators. But secondly, the brain doesn't have a mechanism that differentiates between food and water. You think you're hungry, you eat, but it's really, maybe you're not hungry. I tell my patients, hey, when you think you're hungry and you want a snack, don't snack. Drink a glass of water.
Yeah.
See if the appetite just goes away. And 9 times out of 10 it will. You don't need that food. So you have miscommunicated. What your body's telling you is you need some type of hydration, and you're mistaking it for food.
Yeah.
And that also contributes again, of course, to gaining weight.
Yeah. So I think what we're saying is, those if you're extremely overweight, or if you're overweight and trying to lose weight, there are more things to consider than exercise and change your eating habits. If you are stuck, or you feel that the weight you're trying to get has been stagnant, that you may consider looking at other things like changing your microbiome. Trying to
taking probiotics, forcing a habit of drinking more water, and then after a while, that forced habit just becomes regular habit, and you just naturally just start dropping, a pound or two a week, just all by itself, just from drinking water. Cheapest medicine in the world
is water. And then we have to look at trying to improve that metabolic flexibility.
Yes.
If you're carrying excess belly fat, that means your body is not using insulin as efficiently as it should, and so that has to be corrected.
Yes.
Other factors such as thyroid dysfunction. So I think it's important for the listeners to understand that if they're overweight and been struggling with overweight for a long time, and as it is a result of a lifestyle of poor eating habits, like a lack of exercise, you have to understand that there are some things that would have occurred. Dysfunction. Many of your biological functions would have been disrupted. That now has to be corrected. As I mentioned before, this is why we are now working with this young lady that I brought to you, who's extremely overweight. That we're looking at a lot of those things that has dysfunctional hormones that now needs to be corrected in order for her to continue to have effective weight loss.
Yes, very much so.
And I wanted to just say to everyone that who is supporting Alacia that she's doing very well. She's to date she's lost 25 pounds.
I'm so happy for her.
Yeah. So I think it's important, Dr. Charles. Now that you're here, if I can give you a plug, that I would like to encourage folks to come see you, and if they find that they're struggling with weight loss, that they may now want to take the next step and look at some of the things that could be affected, effective weight loss, like thyroid dysfunction, insulin resistance, and so forth.
There's another one, a big one.
Gut bacteria, like you said, microbiome. You got to look at those things. Sorry, go ahead.
There's another big one that Dr. Barry Sears, who is one of my teachers at MIT, brought to the foreground 20 years ago, and that's called silent inflammation. There's a very low grade, we could call it fever, that happens in between cells. It's what's called eicosanoids and cytokines that don't show up normally on blood because their half-life is extremely rapid. And it sets up an inflammatory cascade that aggravates mitochondria, aggravates the entire system, and that has to be cooled down as well because that affects the immune cells and affects the immune function, and has a whole ramification of cascades that occurs, and generally always in what's called metabolic syndrome, which is insulin resistance, there's always a background of silent inflammation. So what we do is we look at things like sedimentation rate in blood or C-reactive protein, and we see if there's active inflammation that's going on in the body that's taking a toll on systemically the whole body. The whole body is acting like it's got fever. So it's going to take away reserves and functional energy from normal activity and make you not want to sleep well, or to make you have headaches all day long that you nag you, or you have menstruation come on and you have terrible menstrual cramps for 2 or 3 days, or these are all signs of silent inflammation that's just percolating with you your whole life for some people.
Yeah, and if I can link that, by the way, to what we were talking about, mitochondria. If folks who are experiencing low energy, just feel tired all the time. Often it's a lack of exercise, and the reason why it's a lack of exercise because, as we mentioned, mitochondria is the powerhouse. It's what gives you energy. It's your energy source. It's your battery. So if your battery is drained, it's dead.
It's your happiness. If you're not happy, I can guarantee you have mitochondrial dysfunction.
So if your battery is drained, or matter of fact, if you don't have much battery at all, because if you have low mitochondria, because you don't have enough muscle, you're not exercising properly, the brain is not being active, your heart is not beating, so remember
you don't sleep well.
You don't. So remember that we said those most active cells, which is the heart, your brain, muscles, has the most mitochondria sites. And so if those things are inactive, if you're not active, you're not exercising, if your heart is not beating, then the brain becomes very sluggish.
Yep.
You become very sluggish because you have low mitochondria sites, so you're not going to have any energy. So it really just all goes back to mitochondria. By the way, speaking of cells, we did mention that everything originates from the cell.
Yes.
Cells form tissue. Tissue
Tissues.
forms organs, organ systems.
Yep.
Yeah. And then organ systems form living organisms, organisms, right?
Organism.
Yeah. So essentially, we're a living organism.
Yes.
Yeah. So when when you see things start occurring in your skin, you have bad skin, you have poor skin, or you experience things like liver disorder or pancreatic disorder, those kind of things. It is because those things, something has already occurred on a very cellular level.
That's right.
Yeah. So
it
how
may not be at the site of where the eruption is. It could be internal, and the site where the eruption is a combination of toxic excretions and neural irritation that's occurring somewhere internally.
So how do someone improve their cell? How do we focus on nourishing our cells if everything happens on a very cellular level?
Number one is you got to anything that's dirty, you got to flush it out. It has become toxic. Even if the toxins are organic, with the accumulation of carbonic acid and metabolic acids, you have to flush out the system. Then you have to remineralize the cell itself. You have to alkalize it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just basically called fresh fruits and vegetables. It's real simple. Drink water, eat fresh fruits and vegetables. And then third, you got to push that water through. You got to exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most basic start. And then you have to look at key deficiencies that people have, and two minerals stand out in the foreground of everything that rotates around lack of energy and pain, and that is iodine and magnesium. So if you eat fruits and vegetables, more than likely you're getting magnesium back in your system, but more than likely you're not getting enough iodine, and iodine is critical for thyroid health.
Yeah.
So you've got to get your thyroid levels up, and the way you do that is you do a blood test, basically, to see where your thyroid levels are, and that determines how much iodine you've got to start taking to get your system back up to snuff. And then you recheck that in 3 months to see that the levels have come back to normal, and then you go on a maintenance dose. Iodine is really a key mitochondrial trace mineral.
Yeah, and we got to change that microbiome.
And the gut. The gut is huge.
Do you test? You have a test to test the composition of somebody's microbiome?
It's not pretty, but it's shocking. Okay, you take a single drop of blood, you put it on a microscope, we put it on a big screen TV, and we look to see how much bad bacteria is leaking into the blood, and people are often shocked. The blood is never sterile. That's a medical myth that came down from the days of Pasteur. That's completely wrong. You never see a blood that's free of bacteria, because there's constantly bacteria that's leaking into the blood. As long as your health is good and your liver's keeping your blood clean, you scarcely see any. But when a person is constipated and their gut microbiome is leaky and it's got bad bacteria, they'll have a lot of bacteria in their blood.
Yeah.
Little ones and big ones, and sometimes fungus, and sometimes also protozoa. So you see a lot of things in the blood, and we don't look at blood to be a diagnostician. It's not necessary. What is really helpful is when a person sees all those foreign critters in their blood, believe me, they'll start drinking water. And they'll start making efforts to move their bowels every day, because the more sluggish your gut system is, the more bacteria starts to saturate your blood.
So you and I develop a system, a test.
Yes.
Because my role can only go so far. Someone comes to the gym, I assess them. I can prescribe a program for them, which includes diet. But if they have, lived this unhealthy lifestyle for some time, a lot will need to be corrected.
They don't
And
have systems off.
a lot of system off. And so, we have to recreate that metabolic flexibility. So you and I have developed a system that takes to the next step. So I can only go so far. But those things that would have gone awry needs to be corrected. Like as we mentioned earlier, that for someone to achieve effective weight loss, they have to get healthy first.
Yes. Or
So-
they have to be in the process of getting healthy.
They have to, well,
Yeah.
yeah, you have the correct insulin sensitivity, resistance. Sorry, we have to change. We have to correct that the bad increase your microbiome. We have to correct thyroid dysfunction. So, you want to talk a little bit about some of the tests that you do? Some of the things that can go offline, and some of them that needs to be put back online in order to achieve effective weight loss.
Well, we've developed a very unique protocol in the Nevis Clinic that we routinely do on every patient that comes in. We, of course, take their weight, we take their blood pressure, not in one arm, in both arms. We do a urinalysis, and we look very carefully at the pH of the urine and the sodium content, because the sodium content is going to tell us the potassium stores of the body. And then we also do the blood sugar, the blood cholesterol, the uric acid, and the hemoglobin. Okay, that's full stop. That's everybody that gets that. Then I do a assessment that was taught to me by my teacher, Dr. Fohl, in Germany. It's electrodermal screening, but it's basically an electronic way of measuring specific points on the skin that give me an idea of level of activity of internal organs, whether they're high or low or they're normal.
Right.
And from that, that will tell me whether or not we need to go the next step, and that would be, full blood test workups for something that obviously is very wrong. So, for example, I have 2 points on the hand here that I measure for the thyroid, and if those points have measurement deviations, I will generally order a thyroid test from the laboratory to see how far it's off, so that when we start treatment for that to bring it up, we can measure it down the road in 3 months, say, and see if it's responding properly by coming back up towards normal.
Yeah.
So, and then after they get through with me, we go to the microscope station, and we take one little tiny drop of blood, just a little finger prick. We put it on the microscope, and it's an amazing what you can find.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's quite, that tells a lot about the gut health, tells about how much silent inflammation is going on in the body, tells a lot about people's eating habits, how well the bowels are moving, a number of different factors we can get from looking at the blood. And in some cases, we actually find small little tiny squiggly little parasites in the blood. They actually have worms.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to say to those the listeners that if any of you out there who might be struggling with weight gain, and it's been a challenge for you, and we live in a community where I'm sure there's a lot of people who struggle with weight gain. That is often not totally on you. There's these hidden things that is going on behind the scenes that you have no control of unless you know. That we just mentioned, one of which is insulin resistance,
Iodine
gut
deficiency,
iodine deficiency,
potassium
thyroid
magnesium
dysfunction,
deficiency.
yeah, thyroid dysfunction, bad gut bacteria. So, by the way, the cravings. I always said this to some folks that I work with. Often people think that they don't have enough discipline. They crave food. Much of those cravings is not really a lack of discipline. It's really coming from those bad gut bacteria.
It's a physiologic addiction.
Yeah,
it has to be broken.
Yeah, it's a second brain. So imagine your gut is a second brain
Yes.
that is basically essentially telling you what to eat. So this is why changing that microbiome is critically important for effective weight loss, because it helps that person begin the process of achieving. It removes a lot of those things that makes it challenging for them. And so you have to understand that it's just not you and just sheer will. You have to understand what is going on behind the scenes, and those things has to be corrected.
Yes, we call it nagging snacking. You know, they got nagging snacking because they have developed these physiologic urges that are, for a large part, very uncontrollable. You know, the body's craving, and you get into this snacking habit that has to be broken. And once you start changing physiology, it allows the inner power, the inner discipline of the person to effectively control it. And then, you know, it's like I tell people, when you stop eating something that's bad for you, yeah, for the first week or two, you're going to have cravings for it. You have to resist it.
Yeah.
But after a couple of weeks or a month, you look back and you say, you know, I can't even stand the smell of that stuff.
Part of that
I
is
don't even know why I ate that.
part of that is because you know that the composition of that microbiome is shifted.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you're eating better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have better gut bacteria.
You have better gut bacteria.
Yeah, leptin goes offline too. This is why people never get full.
Leptin goes right offline.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, we're getting close to a time.
Great discussion. I hope it doesn't go over too many people's heads. I tend to do that. So.
Well, my role is to try to keep you on track and try to simplify things if we could. So, you know, if you know, those listeners who may be struggling with you know, just having difficulty losing weight, you know, I would recommend just, you know, stopping in and seeing Dr. Charles and just do a general test. It's not that expensive.
You know, I have doctors come and visit me, and they make comments to me like, you know, you do for $100 effectively, right?
Yeah, EC.
What would cost in the United States upwards of $5,000 in today's terrible medical situation. It's, you know, we're very good at looking at all things. We don't assume anything. We do the same tests on every patient that walks in the door, and make sure that what I call vital signs are covered: the blood glucose, the blood sugar, the uric acid, the hemoglobin, the urinalysis. And there's nothing more enlightening than taking a check once in a while to see what your blood looks like under a microscope, because sometimes you get shocked. You know, when I travel overseas, like recently I was in the UAE, and I came back and I struck my finger and I looked at my blood, and there it was, a parasite.
Yeah.
Needed treatment, because if I left it alone, it would have maybe just multiplied in me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do it myself. It's just like, you know, I do my family. Susan asked me before I left, come back to Neva. She said, "Would you check my blood before you leave? I want to see." You know, it's just hygiene.
Yeah.
Is what we're talking about. It's not really just medicine. This is when we talk about gut bacteria, we talk about health, we talk about eating, we talk about exercise, we talk about drinking water. That's not medicine. That's hygiene.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to see it as just you know, brushing your teeth.
Yeah. It's like brushing your teeth, moving your bowels, drinking water, keeping your body clean, showering every day. It's just a matter of good hygiene and exercise. God gave us all the equipment we needed to stay healthy with two things: water and exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, so we're really trying to develop a system that make it super easy, you know, for people to achieve effective weight loss, and we really want to take the guesswork out of it. This is why you and I got together, because, you know, people are struggling.
Yeah,
you know,
and the coaching that you do at your facility is just marvelous. You have some of the nicest staff I've ever met.
Yeah, well, thank you.
At anywhere, and it's such a pleasant environment to go in there and see these people happy, smiling. You know, let's get you on the machine, start moving. It's just it's a wonderful, invigorating environment to be in, and it changes your whole mindset and the way you are.
Yeah. Well, what makes me even more happier is you know, if people are getting the results. You know, they're the ones and this is why you and I, this is why I collaborated with you, because, you know, we really want to develop a system that is efficient, and
Cost effective, efficient,
yeah,
and sustaining.
and it takes the guesswork, because people, they get confused, despite they're doing everything, they're dieting, they're exercising, but the weight's not going.
The doctor who treats himself has a fool for a physician. That's what we always say.
Right.
If you're not feeling well, I mean, even I'm a doctor. If I'm not feeling well or something, I'll call a colleague of mine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So as the time draws near for us to wrap it up, I just I just want to summarize that our conversation, that it's important to understand that again, our physiology hasn't evolved much from primitive time, and that much of our physiology is still from
active.
Yeah, and we have to be active, not just to achieve effective, good weight management, but for longevity.
Yeah.
One of the things we didn't talk about to Dr. Charles is neuroplasticity. How exercise actually increases those and basically neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to adapt. Everything we do, any new movement is the brain. Neuroplasticity is the brain neuroplasticity that helps us link those movements, and so activity actually increases that neuroplasticity.
Yes.
So
and longevity.
And longevity. So we have to think of it in terms of investing in our future selves. So I like to look at it. It's like taking out a 401k. If you don't want to exercise or be active because you don't like exercise, you don't have a choice. I keep saying that to people.
If you don't want to exercise and be active, you better get health insurance.
People look at me and think I exercise all day. I don't like exercise. I said it to people all the time. I don't like to exercise. I'm not in the gym 5 hours a day. I'm really not. I do maybe 45 minutes, three days a week, and that's it. I don't particularly like exercise. I do it because I understand the importance of it. I do it because I have to. Because if I don't, I know that everything falls apart. The body is designed to move, and if it doesn't move, it muscle atrophy. It simply wastes away because the body is designed to move. And the reason why is for all those things that we talk about. Increases mitochondriocytes. Mitochondriocytes responds to cells that are active, the heart, the brain, muscle. They're stored in these cells more because these cells are more active. If you're not active, you don't have good neuroplasticity. And so, you're going to end up, being
and your body auto-intoxicates. you don't flush out waste from your system, so
Yeah.
they accumulate.
So you're more susceptible to dementia and Alzheimer's later on in life. One of the things that exercise does, by the way, it increases your hippocampus. It's that thing that stores memory.
Yes.
So that's another thing that it does. That it actually
Improves your memory.
enlarges your hippocampus. So if you don't want to be an older person that is forgetful and that is not sharp in their thinking, just move. Just move.
Yep. Walk, move, breathe air, get sunlight, drink water.
If mitochondria relates to cells that are active, which is your heart, which is your brain, which is your muscles. The more you have, the easier it is for you to manage insulin levels, the more it is for you to manage your weight, right? The more the brain is active, the less likely it is for it to have inflammation, the less sluggish you'll be, the more alert you'll be, the more mitochondriocytes you have, the more energy you have because they're energy source. And so
the more
you're
happy you'll be.
So just simply make a commitment to move. And again, if you're a person that is struggling with weight loss, please take some time to go see Dr. Charles
And go to fit.
and do those tests to make sure that those other factors that could be affecting your weight loss that we talk about have not gone offline. And if they are, let's get them back online so you can continue to get good results.
Yes.
Final
I think
thought?
It's been a great program. Covered a lot of territory.
Yeah.
I think maybe Mr. Webbo ought to invite us back.
You any final thoughts for you?
Final thought is you have to move, you have to exercise, you got to drink water. Those are the first dynamics of health. And if you have developed these in-base mineral deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies, you'll get back there quicker if you supplement them. And that's what we do at the clinic.
Yeah, and that's a good segue, by the way. You know, people always talk about why it's important to take vitamins, and some people, particularly in islands, they don't believe in vitamins. So just very quickly, I want to touch on that.
But they believe in you. I've been in business a long time. You don't believe in vitamins, you have a lot to learn.
So I think that's another thing is important to understand. That the reason why vitamins is important is because, again, we're living in a very different world.
You can't trust the food anymore.
You know, the soil has been bastardized. It's not what it once was. The food has been genetically modified. It doesn't have the nutrients that it once had because the soil is not as rich.
Yeah.
You know, we're not getting full rays from the sun. We're not getting the full vitamin D from the sun because of, you know, of all the pollution.
Staying indoors.
Yeah. We're indoor more. And so, you know, we in a primitive time, vitamin would not be necessary. But we're living in a different world now. And so adaptation is critically important.
Yep.
So vitamins are very important because the food is not what it once was. The soil is not what it once was.
Yep.
I take vitamins. I have to. And it's just a supplement. We're not suggesting that you take vitamin. It's a supplement. It supplements your
mitochondria.
Well, your meals. What are the key vitamins, just quickly, that you think, what are the most important vitamins that you think people should take that is most deficient? I have my 5. What are your 5?
It's A, B, C, D, and E. Bottom line, you know, people are generally deficient in one or more of those always. Vitamin A from your colored fruits and vegetables, B complex, particularly if you eat a lot of cooked foods, you have B vitamin deficiencies. Vitamin C, everyone is deficient in, and vitamin D, everyone is deficient in, unless they're taking a vitamin D supplement or they're working outdoors all day long.
Yeah.
So you have elements of deficiency of all of them, and it's not that you have to take them every day, but you have to supplement them to bring your reserves back up to optimum, and then you can slack off.
Yeah, so I do all electrolytes. I do the potassium, magnesium, zinc.
All of that.
Yeah.
Yep. 469-9564. That's my number. 469-9564.
And before we leave again, I just want to mention to everyone that we're celebrating our 21st anniversary and first year at the new location, June 9th. The facility is open to the general public. Please come in, have a free trial. It's a free day.
It's a beautiful center.
We invite you to come and come meet the staff and see why we have been in business for 2 decades.
Yes.
Please don't go yet. Let's see if this is for us. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Gentleman, still on?
It's still on, so go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. So about a person who is a slim person and he cannot sleep at night, what's the cause of that?
Doc, just a second. Let me get them back in their chair. They were leaving. You should, Doc. Yeah, put those headphones back on for me, please. We have a caller who is asking a question. Okay, are you hearing now, Doc? David, are you hearing? Are you hearing?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, very well. So,
Okay.
caller, sorry about that. Go ahead now and ask your question.
I was saying, so what you're a slim person who is not overweight, but he cannot sleep at night. What the cause of that?
It's called skinny fat. So because you're slim, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have large amount of muscles. And so if you're not exercised, you don't have muscles, you can also be deficient in mitochondria.
Get it? Okay. for instance, the person do not exercise as often, you just stay one place, do not.
Yeah, I call it skinny fat.
Skinny fat?
Yeah, I call it skinny fat, which means you have more fat than muscles. And so you in the same category, you don't have a lot of mitochondriocytes, so you're not going to have a lot of battery or energy
And
source.
what is the best thing for
Exercise, strength training, strength. Particularly somebody who's skinny, I recommend some resistance training with weights.
No, the person used to be a bit fat one time, but now they're slim.
Yeah, so that even proves the point even more, because if they were lost their weight, they probably would have lost some muscle mass in the process. Yeah, so they really would need to do some strength training to get those muscle mass back.
Okay.
Dr. Charles, you have any thought to that?
Well, normally with sleep, just to get things resettled, I would give a temporary dose of nightly melatonin.
Yeah.
To get the sleep cycle started, and then normally the body takes over after about 30 days.
Okay. I have an idea now what you're saying now. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so if nobody else has a question at this point in time, then Doc and David, thanks very much. And we will now go into our second segment.
Thank you, Webbo.
Hey, builders, homeowners, contractors, listen up! When it comes to building smart and saving big, there's only one place to start. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices. 20% off all day, every day. That's right. At Builders Paradise, you get everyday low prices. Not sometimes, not special days, but all day, every day. From doors and windows, paints and tiles, plumbing and electrical fixtures. Everything you need to build, upgrade, or renovate. So when you're building up and saving smart, start right from the very beginning. Builders Paradise. 20% off all day, every day. Where you're shopping, Builders Paradise. While you're saving, everyday low prices. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices, 20% off all day, every day. Builders Paradise. Saving sweet all day, every day.
Everyday low prices.
You're listening to Vaughn Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis.
Back in this episode of Thought That Get Results, our second segment. Conrad Nile Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and once again, good evening to your staff here at the Powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean. Thanks once again, Webbo, for having me, being a part of your program, and I must say I did enjoy the first segment, even though the terms, the medical terms and so forth left me in a different place and not comprehending to a great extent. But I know the importance of health, and I suppose the public was enlightened to a great extent on the various issues and areas of health, especially in the idea of weight loss and the final thing I've been hearing about skinny fat. I'm wondering if I'm that. I'm not even sure, but I do sleep at night, so maybe I'm outside of that zone. Thank you, Webbo, for having me again.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists, Naya. Good evening to all those who are listening and viewing via the various medium, Webbo. Webbo, I want to say a shout out to all those who are celebrating their birthdays or anniversaries, and those who might be sick and shut in. We wish you a speedy recovery. Those who are bereaved, the family of those who are bereaved, we say sympathy greetings to you, and we pray that God would help you along. Webbo, as we know, is an interactive program. We hope that persons may call in, and it will be a fruitful discussion tonight, Webbo.
Before I want to say one or two things at the beginning, but let me begin by saying good night, Ted. We got you. The second thing is that I want to say good night to Mr. Brand, Spencer Brand. Spencer is a real politician, right? Because I don't know if you guys follow me sometimes in the morning. And this morning I said that a friend is good to have more than one friend, you know. Last week, I think, you remember last week a fella called in and said that he have so many of a particular product he trying to give people and people wouldn't even take them. You all remember that?
Yes, yes.
Remember I said that fella is my friend?
Yes.
Yeah, and I said,
yes,
well, bring them to me. I ain't get them yet. Right?
Oh.
And that's my friend. But I walked into the office the other day and a package was there from Mr. Brand.
Wonderful.
you know what I'm saying? So I ain't one of those guys who in the 10 who don't say thank you. You know what I'm saying?
Wonderful.
But I believe there was a catch to it. That was wrapped up so nicely. I think that was inspired by Mrs. Brand. So Sheila, thank you as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that out of the way, I wanted to say that last week or the last week or two, I was looking for this document, right? One of my tech folks had from the Newsline department had gathered it for me. You remember when I spoke about the U.S. Senate passing this bill? It says the U.S. Senate unanimously votes to withhold its pay during government shutdown. And it's not very long. I want to read what it says. It says, senators voted unanimously on Thursday to pass a resolution suspending their own pay during government shutdowns, aiming to impose financial consequences on lawmakers following a series of unprecedented stalemates over the past year. The bipartisan support for the measure comes at a time when federal closures have become longer and more frequent, frustrating lawmakers who say there should be punishment when Congress fails at its most basic legislative duty. Under the resolution, senators' pay will be withheld by the Secretary of the Senate whenever a government shutdown affects one or more agencies, then released once funding is restored. It will take effect the day after the November 3rd general election. So, full disclosure, I was discussing it briefly with Roger before we came on the air, and I told Roger, these are what I call common sense solutions to problems. You know how long this thing been going on, affecting people who can pay the rent and you know, who live paycheck to paycheck and stuff like that, while they go along and get in their pay. So they had the courage. It was unanimous. The politicians said, you know, this is not fair. If we can get our basic work done, the people suffer, we have to suffer as well. How's that for? And I'm not even just focusing on the U.S. Senate. When I made the suggestion a few weeks ago, I was saying that these are the kind of things I think we need to do to improve our society. So every year we complain about the treatment we get from the politicians and so on and so forth and so on, and nobody does anything about it. I'm so happy that they did that, so that the people with the hardships and so on, because I guarantee you that they will do better, because they ain't gonna get any pay either. And the good thing is, in a sense, you can't say it's so much political because it comes into effect after the next election. So you don't really know who is going to be there at this point in time. Okay, so I'm done.
I think, Webbo, that's a great example. Great example to the world, really, where we see politicians going beyond themselves to assure that others are counted, and especially as a consequence of their action or inactions. Then you have a shutdown and other people suffers. I think it's a great move. It's a good example, really. If we bring that a little closer home, we may not have that kind of culture where government is shut down, but sometimes we hear about pay rise for the ministers, and we wonder if they are thinking about the everyday people as well. But I suppose that maybe comes in the form of a higher what they call it, minimum wage, and so forth. But that's a good example. It's democratic by nature, I think, and as you say, the fact that it comes into effect after the next election, and that's another thing that we people here in politics and generally have to consider when we think of a major move. Sometimes we got to play it across political lines, and sometimes, like for instance, example, I was having a conversation with myself, and I'm saying if any one of these political party decide to say evoke the 113 clause, they really should have an election probably just before they do that, or something in conjunction with analyzing and taking into consideration the other party and the way people may feel about the other party taking office. I don't think it should simply just be, okay, I would evoke this clause, and you expect everybody to fall in line. I think maybe one good thing is to say, well, I would evoke the clause immediately after the next election. That's what I think.
Well, Webbo, just to back up a bit before I come to what Naya was basically saying. What I would say, Webbo, I believe that by, in our region, basically, the ministers, cutting their pay, or, they would be affected directly. I believe that it shows accountability, it shows leadership, it shows example. We have to recognize to Webbo that they are the ones, in Parliament who would pass certain laws and stuff like that. So they must be held accountable. They cannot expect persons like us who are at the lower end of earnings, to be affected and then not be affected. Webbo, another thing that comes to mind too is that, especially sometimes around here, you would hear that, oh, you want to go into politics because you want to get rich, you want to fill your pocket of money and stuff like that. And if that is to happen, Webbo, around here, around these parts, Webbo, we would realize that people going into politics would go in because of desire to go into politics and not a desire to seek wealth. So I believe that is something that we ought to adopt. For too long we've always been hearing of the term that when America sneeze, we catch the cold, and if that is so, I think this is one of the things that we should probably adapt here in the Caribbean and in St. Kitts Nevis, so people could be more accountable. People would go in to serve their people who would have elected them, and I believe that in doing so, the country, the island, could only be a better place. Now,
go ahead.
I was saying, in terms of what Naya spoke of, if a particular party to evoke 113, if memory serves me right, I think that clause was actually evoked evoked sometime, I think, 1998, and I think referendum there was the 10th of August, if my memory serves me right, back in 1998. And just before that, there was an election, and that election, if memory serves me right, was to see who the people of Nevis would like to see lead them, after secession.
But I'm not sure that he did mention that that was a part of the campaign prior to the election date, that the clause would be invoked. I mean, I can be wrong, Was that the case?
Well, from memory,
Okay.
I was much younger, but
Okay.
from what I can recall.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, with that thing, though, my idea is to have it as the general principle, so that it does not apply to only salaries, but other things which, affect people, and seemingly the persons in authorities don't care because it doesn't affect them. So
Yeah.
I think those common sense approaches
Yes.
can make things not perfect, but a little
Better.
better.
It's humane, and I think he endorses the concept of servants of the people.
Yes.
To a great extent.
Yes.
And yeah, it makes people feel better. Yeah. We know that you have us in the forefront of your mind in your deliberation or actions or inactions. I do your work.
Okay, so the second thing I'd like to put on the table, and the last thing, is anybody sense that there's an election somewhere on the horizon?
Well, Webber, I want to believe so. The reason why I'm saying this, I think that some weeks ago we might have been leading up to Labor Day. There were the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, the party in government, at the federal level. They were having political campaigns. They would have had a convention recently, and the tone of the convention, was one that suggests to me that there's an election around the corner. There were chatter in the convention about it could be time to ring the bell could be rung now and stuff like that. So that tells me or suggests to me that there might very well be an election on the horizon. And if we were to look at Webbo, we look at Barbados, who had early elections and the incumbent won. We look at Antigua, who had early elections and the incumbent won the reins of government. So, probably might just be a follow suit, so to speak.
Well, the time is coming, a year is not a very long time, but still, I do believe that there's something will be happening something will be announced within the next 9 months. I'm not sure when it's actually due, but I think over on the island of St. Kitts, and here too, a little under the covers, I hear little things here and there, and I'm not privy to the insiders of none of the political parties, so it looks like but I've been hearing little things through the cracks. People are preparing themselves for that call, as if it can be any time. I guess they feel the same way as we do here, that something may be happening. And of course, it got to come from the boss in St. Kitts, and so people are basically preparing themselves, I suppose, But I'm ready to commentate. I'm ready to commentate. I was meditating just the other day, and in a conversation with myself, and I was thinking, when will the day arrive when independent candidates would be of more or taken on board by the public in a more serious way, because whereas the local election, I find it will be a bit of a struggle, but in the general election, do you think an independent candidate would be more likely to make a mark?
Well, for some reason or the other, St. Kitts Nevis, the electorate, for some reason they don't gravitate towards independent candidates, unlike, other islands like maybe Mount Stratton and Anguilla. And for the very first time, 2 elections ago in 2023, when on the mainland of Antigua, for the first time, an independent candidate in Asset Michael, late Asset Michael, would have won his St. Peter seat. So I'm saying this to say, that might have been, something to look at, so to speak. But for some reason, as I said, even third parties, there would have been third parties in the federal that took part in the federal elections. There were third parties that took part, here in Nevis.
Let me take this, gentleman. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Yes. I agree with Webbo that it's not just about the salaries, making our representatives feel some pain via salaries just like the rest of us. It's more than that. It's, I would call cases where there's obvious malfeasance in office, or a willful, it seems, idea that you can just throw things out the window because there are going to be no consequences. And I'll give you an actual example. The Public Accounts Committee in both islands, obviously in a parliamentary democracy, this is an important instrument. But both the Prime Minister and the Premier seems content to go along throughout their term without having this committee in place. And I call that a travesty for the people of both islands. Okay? It's a travesty for democracy. Yet they're oblivious to it. And what's worse, you listen to all the press conferences and round tables and interviews that parliamentarians may have, and you don't hear the press asking about this thing. Why aren't they pounding those representatives about something like that? Because the consequence of not having it pretty well means that the government can do whatever it likes for a whole year, and it only comes to light maybe when the director of audit peruse the book.
Caller, might I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You made a statement in reference to the press. The press don't ask. You may not know, but the question I would ask, therefore, is why you think they don't ask?
Well, generally, I have this idea that the press in our federation is very timid. The press don't press. They don't follow up. They take long-winded answers that means nothing and don't say yes, but.
Okay,
and
so then...
I suspect it's because the press, just like so many other aspects of our society, they're interwoven in the, shall we say, don't want to offend psyche that generally pervades our society. They don't want to ask the hard questions. They don't want to offend. They're part of it is, of course, they're fearful of recrimination, right? And of course, there's always the bottom line that they have to look at. But it's a disservice, I think, to the country when you have press not asking these questions, okay? And it's not just the Prime Minister and the Premier, because they have other representatives as well. Why aren't they prodding the operationalizing of these committees? I think it's just absolutely disgraceful.
So you think the press is timid in essence?
I think that the press is timid.
And they're interwoven with... I'm just trying to paraphrase
they're
what...
afraid of consequences.
Afraid of. Okay. All right, I got you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With regards to elections, did we ever stop campaigning since last election? In all honesty, the opposition may have been pretty silent in a lot of places. To me, they could have been more strident. But the government side, I find they never stop campaigning, at least not known in St. Kitts. They have never stopped campaigning. We've been campaigning for the last 4 years.
But you think they should stop?
Yeah, I think they should, after elections, there should be a period where, your nation builds.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you differentiate when a person is campaigning as opposed to reporting or talking about what they're doing?
Well, it's one thing, right? Sure, we're accustomed to what we call SKNIS, the government's information system. Okay? We're accustomed to the government essentially having practically total access to the media, government media. Okay? And I think that's enough. But no, you're going to have all kinds of media blasting at you, all kinds of programs blasting at you. It just overwhelms you, okay? And that's the difference. Of course, government should promote its programs and so on, but you just look at the number of fake pages you have, the number of people out there that are promoting government, the government agenda. And by the way, I suspect getting paid to do it, by a public fund.
But let me ask you this, and the last point that you make. What is wrong with the government or anyone getting their message out?
Because it's not a level playing field. If the government, if the government monopolizes the media like this, it is not good. It's not a level playing field. It's unfair to the opposition. The government already have an advantage being an incumbent, and you're just decimating the opposition with more.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What if a government is formed and they decide to follow your suggestion and don't bombard the media, etc., and the opposition does that, then what?
Well, if the opposition does that, the government has every right, and you must distinguish between opposition and party. Yeah? If a party does that, then the ruling party has every right to do the same.
You want a light moment?
But
you make Fifield laugh. So Fifield, you and him have a conversation on that.
No,
Yes, I feel.
yeah. What I'm saying, Carla, is that in today's world, there are so many outlets, so many mediums that anyone, whether in government or opposition, could reach out to, can get the message out to.
It's not free. They're not free.
Here,
They're not free. They're paid for.
okay, fine. But what I'm saying here is that here in Nevis, I think some years ago, it was. I think the matter probably went to the court, whereas now, the opposition could go to the government media here in Nevis and have access to it. I'm not quite sure about that. I'm saying.
And in practical terms, is that done?
Well, what I can say is that they have access to it. It's another case whether they utilize that access or not.
Well, caller, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Are you suggesting that what we ought to do as a society is everybody who is in politics get equal time
Yes.
to speak?
Certainly on the national media.
Well, okay, and then you walk with me. So when everybody gets equal time, right, on the national media, then we could leave it at that.
Well,
in terms of, because
it's an improvement.
no, we're not going for just an improvement, we are going for to get the thing fixed.
Well, you can't fix it unless you have some kind of campaign reform, finance reform.
Oh boy!
Because you can have all kinds of donors, people with all kinds of agendas, supporting your party with the intention of getting some kind of payback.
So in other words, then this might just be talk that will get no result. Then.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go on to something else then.
Well, no, but you still have to talk.
No, but I got
talk about it.
No, walk with me. I'm saying for now, you have concluded that one will be talk that get no result. So can we go on to something else that might get some result?
Like speculating about whether.
Well, I don't know. We have left that one there. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they like to bring
like
up.
speculating if elections are impending.
Well, what do you think? Do you see any signs that there's an election pending?
Yeah, I think there are. I suspect that the incumbents are mulling over the fact that the opposition is not necessarily in the strongest of positions. They don't want to risk that we have a downturn because, the last IMS report and the fact that we've been running fiscal deficit suggests that things are not going too nicely, and don't want to risk any downturn, any recession, if there is, or if they want to improve our fiscal situation, they might have to take some hard decision, and it's better to have an election before that. So I think those are considerations that are currently being mulled over.
Okay,
and in any case, impending elections are due next year anyway. So, that's impending enough, I think. Okay?
Okay, so your suggestion that an election is impending means that you think an election will be held next year?
I suspect it will be held before that. I don't think they're going to give the opposition time to consolidate and...
okay, so based on where the opposition is at, how much time you think the opposition needs to consolidate to be ready?
Couple months.
A couple of months? Okay, so this is June, so that couple of months will mean July, August. September, so you're looking at September election?
Well, certainly by budget time coming around, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Miss Edric. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good night, Webber. Good night, good night, good night to Roger. Good night.
Good night, good night.
Right, so.
Hello?
Good night.
Yes, good night.
Yeah, Webber, you hear me?
You are on the air, could you go ahead?
Okay, no, Webber, yeah. My question is that I want to know, right, when we going to find real politician and loyal politicians to the constituency, when the people elect them to run the field of the constituency, I want to know that when they get in government, why they do it. Because most of these politicians, especially these madam politicians, excuse me, as soon as they go in, you hear they got a big mansion. You hear they got a big condo. You hear they got this, you hear they got that. And some politicians still there long and got all kind of things. And because the people them in the constituency loyal to the party, you understand? Some of them will want help. People in the constituency will want help and they ignore them because these are the people we want loyal politicians who go in there and loyal to the country, loyal to the people, and loyal to the party. Not to go in there, go full up the pocket and then get these big condos, and when you in your constituency suffering, your children suffering, you can't find money to supply your children them, you can't find food to give your children them, you can't find lunch to give your children them, and all these things. A lot of these young madam politicians, they're going there, they're rich, they get rich quick. And that is what the downfall of the people of this country, because when you lie to party, this is where we people suffer from. You understand? You want the party lose, but you'll do anything for the party. But you don't got a politician there. Got all kind of condos, got all kind of this, got all kind of that. And got plenty money. But because you got that, you're going to suffer for him and you ain't have nothing. Anyway, continue to listen to the program. May God bless you all.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that to me is, that does happen, continue to happen. Things turn around fast for some politicians, and enough time is turning around and the people don't even know because it's hidden from the people. But there is something called integrity in public life where they're supposed to give an indication of their worth prior to unbecoming a government and certain aspect of the civil service. And so that is a bit of a, what could I say, a container to contain them in their wild goose chase to become wealthy in a very short period. I'm not sure if it does that in effect, but we hope to have politicians that remember that they're there to serve the people and not to look after themselves and their family. And so we can only hope and trust. But Webbo, as we did say, hail up to Theodore Hobson, I wanted to point to the fact that the building that bears his name in Charlestown, the courthouse in the middle of Charlestown, one of the outstanding building in Charlestown, seriously need some attention. And I'm not talking about refurbishing to an extent where you have to spend a lot of money, but I stood at on the step of the National Bank the other day, and really, there are trees, and there are literally trees going out the side of the building. It's just not looking good as a visitor, as a person of concern. When you look at the building, to see trees actually going out the side of the building, growing on top the roof of the building, and it bears the name of Theodore Hobson. I can't think for him, but to me, it's for to show more respect, and not just for the name, but for the importance of the building, the relevance of the building, and its the landmark it really represents in Charlestown. I believe that just minor attention. I know they may have to budget and spend a lot of money doing this and that, but on the external of the building, to see trees and so forth growing out of the building, it's not a good sight from my point of view.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, I just wanted to ask the question of who was it who raised the question about the integrity in public life. What they are? Integrity in public life. What's the official name?
Integrity in public life, bill or act or whatever. That's I know
Okay.
it to be.
Do you think it's working?
I don't think so. I think loopholes has been discovered and
Exactly.
and employed.
Right. Do you think that the Freedom of Information Act that was passed is working?
No.
Okay. Exactly.
So
So those checks and balances that we're supposed to have are not working, right?
Good.
And therein lies the problem. We don't know what's going on. There's no openness and transparency in government. And the government likes that. That's great politics. They're in the driver's seat. And I think the citizens had better wake up and realize that really and truly they've been taken for a ride. Okay? And it's unfortunate, but that's how it is. Might be very difficult to change, but we can't have politicians deceiving us like this, election after election, saying the things we want to hear, each accusing the other of corruption, and it's like a never-ending cycle, right? And it's time to break the cycle, I think.
Caller,
All right.
can I ask a question?
Sure.
For example, the integrity in public life, there's a commission, and maybe you can help me out here, how it is constituted, who select the persons who are on that particular commission. And what I know of the commission is that it has persons who I want to believe would all agree that are persons of integrity. And I'm sure that if they were to hear these type of comments, I'm sure that they would strongly disagree.
So how come from time to time we hear of people indulging in questionable or downright corrupt acts, and there are no consequences? How come there is no example made of, like, what's his name in Turks and Caicos?
Mystic?
Mystic or something like that?
Yeah,
Right?
the former.
How come that does not happen? Look, the number of things that integrity commission, in my opinion, is way understaffed in the first place.
I don't see. Let me see if I can follow you. So if Roger and Naya are on the heavyweight show, and they lock up one for bribery, your question is how come they didn't lock up the next one or jail the next one?
No, I'm saying that if they lock up somebody for bribery, the others would think twice before bribing.
Right. So which
work
with me, which suggests that the others were not involved in bribery, they will think twice.
The others all of them would think twice.
Right. So therein lies the answer. They lock up the one for bribery because he was involved in bribing. Not correct?
Correct.
Okay. So asking how come they didn't lock up the next one, the answer can well be because the next one was not involved.
True, that's a real possibility.
Okay,
But
so then,
it could also be that they were involved, and again, since an example was made of one, be very careful about what they do. That's the whole point. It's just like justice. It has not. It must be seen to be done. Must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. Okay, and we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it done here. We're not seeing the things that are supposed, the checks and balances, and the things that are supposed to hold government feet to the fire. They're not working.
why are they not working, you think?
Again, it goes back to what we spoke about. There are consequences for people, and yes, those persons who may be involved in these entities may themselves be integrous, may be of high integrity, but there may also be persons who don't want to break the eggs to make an omelette. Things are nice and quiet, keep it nice and quiet.
Okay, so in other words, put simply, that's who we are as a society.
Unfortunately, that happened.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, listen, Webbo, sometimes, we have to look at ourselves and who we are. And I would want to believe that if I believe that I am someone who cannot fit the bill, someone who would not be able to do what I'm called to do, I would probably just back away and sit out. So maybe sometimes we probably need to look at that as individuals, as a society, and do the work of the people. If that is not at all happening, in the case of the commission, I'm not saying it's not happening, but I'm saying if it is not happening as the caller, in my opinion, would have suggested. And then too, I would want to believe that the both government and the opposition would have a say. And so the question begs then, is the government not making their selections wisely, and is the opposition not making their selection wisely? And if not, why? Is it because, quote unquote, the government and opposition like it like that? Is it that what we are saying? Is it that what we are suggesting? I'm not sure.
Well, it seems like there exists some kind of need for a revolution, whether social, political, or it's all in the mind, really, because it's quite easy to say that's who we are as a people. Who we are as a people seems to be settling for a kind of system that has laws in place but does not respect these laws. I think an example, the Freedom of Information Act, has been tested to the fullness recently, and I think it's there are groups who are still trying to get information which would affect the people, the going forward of the country, would the landscape, political and social and otherwise, economic landscape of the country. But such information is simply not coming out. A little bit come out the other day in the news conference when the Premier spoke to the contents. Or one of the content of the letter that of the reply from the federal government as it relates to the Destiny project, when he says
let me just take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, good night again. Now, Naya, don't you think that is we, the people who go out there and vote, supposed to demand that these things supposed to happen? don't you think that we're supposed to get the voice up now? Because we live, we come out of this centuries, and we into politics for centuries, and we go to the poll every 5 years, and consistently you hear these things happen. But the electorate, because a party affiliate, nobody wants to do these things when the party come in and stand up for these things. And these things, I tell you what that this is where we suffer from. The country suffer from, and we, the wise man who know better and calling to get better, suffer from, and who know better. Because the majority of the people in the country, in this country, is the people who, you know what I mean, that the small-minded people. They don't want to hear them. Some of them tell you that they don't want to hear nothing. I just want to hear about my party. As long as my party in government, everything safe. You understand? That's why I said some of us, and most of them, these people are the big electorate going to the poll. You understand? So these is things that we, the voters, supposed to challenge these people on. We are supposed to, he must be a lawyer, he must be a doctor, he must be some kind of high educated person from nowhere. It's with the people vote, and we're supposed to know what we want for the people in this country.
So you don't think that, so you don't think the people know?
Some of them may know, because some of them don't want to understand, they don't listen.
Okay.
But some of them, they don't want to know, they don't listen, they don't want to understand. All of the things, my party in government, and what they do is okay, whether they're wrong or they're right.
Okay,
whether
so...
they suffer from the cause of what the party doing.
And you would agree that everybody is not going to be able to, is not going to think the same way, right?
I know that, I know that. Nobody is going to think the same way.
Okay,
But,
and so, walk with me. So the way they operate and the way they think, that's their call, correct?
the call.
Yeah, that's how they see it.
Yeah, because we're trying to say, right, we're supposed to be educated towards, trying to be educated
but
towards.
who told you? Okay, well, walk with me. So if I decide I'm going to walk with Fifield, and you decide you're going to walk with Naya, that mean I'm not educated?
Me say so, but if Fifield is doing the right thing.
No, but
right?
but you're not following me. Yeah, but if Fifield is doing the right thing, and I walk with Fifield, right?
Yeah.
And you decide to walk with Naya, and Naya doing the wrong thing, then I get upset with you?
No, if Naya doing the wrong thing, I don't walk with him.
Okay, so then, all right. So then, if I walk with Fifield because Fifield doing the right thing, then everybody must walk with Fifield. Hmm?
You know, Webbo, yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I often said to people, Webbo, that people would see things in a different light, and everybody would never be able to see the same thing or set of things the very same way. And that's why we, as humans, we see things differently, and because we see things differently, we would gravitate towards certain things. It comes right back to even you as an individual, who you like, the qualities in a person. You know, you may like that person because that person is tall, because that person is short, because maybe the way that person speaks, the way the person carry him or herself. And this is what I'm saying. People see things differently. You look at the figure 6, where I'm sitting here, to where Naya is sitting. He may very well see a 9. I may see a 6, but who is really wrong? People see things and feel as if that, when it comes to the politics, that a particular party would take them along the right way, that they are the way that they believe is the right way or the better way, and that is fine. That is quite fine, because if we were to all think alike, then maybe all of us would have been working here at the station and at the radio station, and then there would probably be nobody mixing concrete.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes. Webbo, with all due respect, you're confusing the issue, right? Society should have a set of values, norms, standards, whatever you want to call them, okay? And there are some things, yes, I know there are different shades of gray, but there are some things that are definitely black and some things that are definitely white. I'm not saying rich is rich, but there are some things that are definitely good and some things that are definitely bad. And if we as a society can't agree on those and follow them, then we're in trouble. Okay? The fact is that there are some sides, parties, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, let me point out something here to you. We're almost out of time.
Okay. All right.
Walk with me. I will allow you to make your point, but you got to make it in a pressy kind of way.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All I'm saying is that if there are two sides, yes, everybody can gravitate to one side, but we would hope, because of those values and so on, that we would gravitate towards this side that is good, right? And avoid the side that is bad. That's all I'm saying, right? It's not a case of you choosing one color or the next. Those colors mean something, right? Usually there are policies and so on that we have to weigh. There are ways of governing that we have to weigh. And they can come down on the side of good and bad. And we hope that the electorate in the final analysis choose the side that is good.
So how did I confuse the issue?
You confuse the issue by making it seem as if, everybody cannot back one side.
And they can.
And I'm saying that once we have our set values and principles, they
Okay.
can.
Well, walk with me real quickly. So who going to determine what the values must be?
The society as a whole.
What do you mean the society as a whole?
The society as a whole can decide that, listen...
the society as a whole, meaning in our society, 50,000 people will all decide that we will go to the Catholic Church?
No, ultimately, right, our leaders are the ones who we choose, and hopefully they have good laws and those kinds of things.
Hopefully. So we ain't have an issue we've been debating for weeks and months and years, and the leaders said this and other people said, oh, no. So how are we going to get our work?
Democracy works.
Anyway.
That's how it works. And in the final analysis, there's a test. If most people decide that they want A, then A it is.
Oh, most people?
Yeah,
oh,
but
not
that's how democracy works.
Walk with me, not the society. What happened to the rest of the people in the society?
But
if you're only going with what most people say.
But that's the democratic way.
That's democracy. Okay, that's the democratic way. Okay. All right. Who's got the last word?
But the public is an intelligent group, and the public know exactly when they're shortchanged, and the public feel it. Only that sometimes they don't know what to do, because it is a system at work, and many institutions that you got to really evoke to make things happen in the proper way is outside their reach.
So that's the last word?
Yes.
This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Map. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work, a place where you can spend all of your evenings right here in the Eastern Caribbean Spa House. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community thought and get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect represent the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertiser.
With all the power from the tower, this is the Power